From the moment we arrive, our first act is a cry for comfort. We enter the world in a state of seeking, beginning a lifelong search for a sense of security and happiness that seems to perpetually sit just out of reach. We spend decades chasing this feeling through a series of milestones. In childhood, we expect toys to provide it. As adults, we shift that expectation to career titles, higher salaries, or the perfect partner, operating on the silent belief that the next achievement will finally be the one that lasts. This strategy relies on a flawed premise. We are trying to extract permanent stability from a physical world that is, by definition, unstable. Every object we acquire and every situation we enter is subject to the same biological cycle. It appears, it grows, it decays, and it eventually ceases to exist. Siddhartha Gautama saw this cycle clearly. Despite living in palaces designed to shield him from every discomfort, he realized that basing his well-being on these shifting conditions made sorrow inevitable. He saw that if the foundation of your happiness is something that can rot or break, your peace will eventually rot or break with it. We are essentially trying to solve a permanent problem with temporary tools. It is an equation that inevitably ends in a deficit. When the pressure of the world becomes too much, our instinct is to change our geography. We dream of mountain retreats in the Himalayas or isolated cabins, operating under the assumption that we need external silence before we can experience internal quiet. The Bhagavad Gita provides a technical breakdown of this dilemma. It approaches the human search for peace not as a matter of faith, but as a matter of psychological precision. The setting of this dialogue is a deliberate contradiction. The sage Vyasa placed this entire spiritual investigation in the center of Kurukshetra, a massive, active battlefield filled with the roar of war horns and the imminent threat of death. This raises a difficult question. If the goal is tranquility, why deliver the message in an environment defined by absolute violence and chaos? The choice of setting challenges the very idea of an escape. It suggests that any peace dependent on a quiet room is fragile and incomplete. Swami Vivekananda observed that the external world is inherently resistant to our attempts to fix it. He compared the world's chaos to a dog's curly tail. You can use all your strength to pull it straight, but the moment you let go, it snaps back to its natural crooked state. The battlefield of the Gita serves as a map of human psychology. Kurukshetra represents the human body itself, the field where our internal conflicts play out every single day. The Kauravas, the antagonists of the story, represent the army of compulsive desires and habits born from our identification with the physical body. They are the internal forces that keep us reactive, anxious, and tethered to material outcomes. Standing against them are the Pandavas, who represent our higher intelligence and divine virtues. They are the capacity for clarity and discernment that allows us to fight against our lower impulses. This battlefield is our permanent reality. We are constantly caught between these two internal forces, making the war an unavoidable aspect of the human experience. Our typical approach to life's problems is like trying to untangle a knotted ribbon by pulling on its outer edges. By focusing on external fixes, changing our environment, or trying to control others, we often just tighten the very knots we are trying to undo. Solving the tangle requires finding the core thread. When you address the center, the peripheral knots lose their grip. This shift requires moving from an outward search for happiness to an inward investigation of the one thing in our lives that never changes, our own awareness. If you sit in a pitch-black room, you lose your sense of the furniture, the walls, and the world outside. Yet you don't need a light to know that you are there. The fact of your own existence remains self-evident, even when every external reference point disappears. Shifting your identification to this constant internal presence provides a point of stability that the changing external world simply cannot offer. This brings the entire spiritual investigation back to the chaos of the battlefield. The logic Vyasa presents is uncompromising. If it is possible for Arjuna to realize his unchanging inner self, while arrows fly and war horns blare, then that same realization is accessible in a loud kitchen, a high-pressure office, or a difficult family gathering. Peace functions as a background frequency. It is a realization of the unchanging self that remains audible even when the external world is at its loudest. The search for peace doesn't require waiting for your life to calm down. The noise of your current life provides the exact conditions necessary to find the stillness that exists beneath it.